Sakamoto desu ga is one of the funniest shows that I've seen in years, almost entirely because of just how perfect Sakamoto is as a character and how well he fits into different comedic scenarios. The nature of Sakamoto's character is that no matter what he does, it will always be cool. That's not to say that Sakamoto always does things that are inherently cool, but that no matter what he does, it will be cool because he's doing it. Everything about his design is perfect for this. His appearance is at once kind of unassuming and normal. He's just a black-haired high school kid with glasses, and yet at the same time, he's usually drawn to look really handsome. And what's great about this is that it really allows him to fit in no matter what role they make him play. If he's supposed to look really smart and educated, he can look like that. If he's supposed to blend into the background, he can do that. If he's supposed to be stealthy, he can do that. But also, if he wants to be ostentatious and grandiose, then he can do that too, because he's also good looking and, his clothes can come off and reveal his chest and abs and everything, and he can be this beautiful man. He can be sexy if he wants to. Likewise, his personality is written in such a way that you can fit him into pretty much any scenario, and one of the big questions on your mind is going to be, what is he actually getting at? The answer to which is always going to be something really cool. Sakamoto can seem kind of naive and ignorant sometimes, but he's also very curious and he learns really fast, and he knows how to get himself out of any situation or turn any situation into something great. So no matter how much of an idiot he might seem like at first, he will always come out on top, and his own idiocy will often be the thing that ends up leading to the cool thing he does. Whereas in other cases, because he's also very educated and, has this wealth of knowledge of the things he does know, then he can also be really smart and have all the answers in certain scenarios. No matter what situation you put Sakamoto into, it always makes sense for him to be there and for him to take the actions that he does. And those actions can be virtually anything, which allows for all kinds of really wacky, insane, crazy hijinks to ensue over the course of the series. I often hear people say that a character with no flaws can't be interesting, or that they just aren't a good character, and I've always vehemently disagreed with this. A character like Sakamoto is meant to be someone who we all aspire to be. We should all want to be as perfect as Sakamoto, even if we know that we never will be. When I look at a character like this, I see it as sort of a challenge. It's sort of telling us that this is what we should all be working towards, and if we're not this cool, then we need to continue to improve ourselves, and the show very much uses Sakamoto this way. Sakamoto acts as a sort of mirror to everyone else, showing them their own imperfections and where they need to improve to be able to reach his level. And the surprising amount of drama that actually comes through in some of these scenarios comes from the fact that characters have to deal with that. They have to somehow look at Sakamoto and overcome their jealousy or their attempts to justify their own actions and just come to terms with the fact that they are not perfect like he is and that they need to work to be better, but they'll never be as good as him. No one will ever be as good as him. And this forms the crux of a dramatic arc towards the end of the series that somehow manages to be both touching and pretty deep even in the dialogue in the show, while also maintaining the uproariously hilarious situational comedy that the show does so well. And holy shit, does it do it so well. This show had easily some of the funniest things I've seen in anime all year. In several years, it's probably just outright one of the funniest anime out there. And I think what really sells it is that it doesn't have to be funny all the time. This is very much not a jokes per minute type show. It's more of a show that really leads you into these long, drawn-out scenarios that have these big, amazing punchlines. And somehow, they always land. I've seen other shows like this where sometimes a half episode might be dedicated to a build-up towards a punchline that just doesn't quite justify all the build-up, and it just ends up feeling kind of weak, and those shows can be really spotty in places. But there was not a single part of Sakamoto that I thought was weak. There was never an episode that I thought was totally unfunny, and even the ones that weren't nearly as uproarious were still interesting in their own ways, where some of the character studies would be really interesting, and even some of the moments could be really poignant, because the show goes all out on manipulating emotions and pushing each of these scenes to be as dramatic as they possibly could be, because that makes it even more hilarious when they get flipped on their heads or when something new happens. There's one episode that ends in such a way that it both made me laugh the hardest I have at any joke in anime so far this year, and then seconds later almost be brought to the verge of tears by what happens as a result of the hilarious moment. This show really controls all kinds of emotions, and I think it's really powerful for that reason. I'm really glad that this show continues in the tradition of the serious comedy that you might have heard me talk about a few times back when I did the initial impressions for this season, as well as in other videos, which is a concept that was put forth by the Bakuman manga. Basically, the idea is to have characters who are taking a situation very seriously and remaining straight-faced, whereas the actual things that are happening are so over-the-top and hilarious that the audience laughs at them because they don't fit the serious nature of the characters. And this show does that brand of comedy exceedingly well. I'd love to eventually write some kind of analytical piece on that entire style of comedy once I look into more of it and find all the shows that do that, because I do think it's one of the coolest types of comedy out there and one that is being explored in really interesting ways in anime and manga. But anyways, I would really strongly recommend Sakamoto. It's definitely my favorite comedy anime of the year, possibly one of my top 5 favorite shows of the year so far. I mean, I've given it the highest rating of anything I've seen so far this year, though I still have a lot of catching up to do on other shows, but really, this one was real strong, and I could easily see returning to it, and there's definitely some stuff that I could see laughing just as hard at the second time, even though a lot of the surprise was definitely a contributing factor to what made some of those scenes so out there and hilarious. But I would relish the opportunity to get to sit someone who hasn't seen the show down and watch it with them and get to see their reactions, because that would be absolutely golden. If you haven't seen this show yet and you're interested in watching it, it's all on Crunchyroll, and if you sign up for a free trial using this link that has my name on it, then I actually get money from that. So by all means, feel free to do that, and support me on Patreon if you want to help my channel to keep going. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.